Hello everyone, this is Sumant. In this video, let's discuss how to read and write a file in Python. So generally we want to handle two types of files, that is like text file and binary file. So mostly we're gonna use text file in day-to-day applications. So let's discuss how to handle text file in Python. So the first thing which I have to discuss is opening a file. So if you want to open a file, you can just use open of command, and if I just give shift tab here, you can see the explanation about this open of method. And the first input, we have to give the name of the file which we have to open, and the second thing is mode. So defaultly the mode is R, so it means read mode, and if you want to change the mode, you can just change it. Like there are some other modes like write mode, append mode, and write plus, read plus, append plus. There are some other modes. So let's discuss one by one. First thing is I'm just using open of, and I'm giving like test.txt file. I'm just giving that name of the file, open of, and I'm just opening in read mode. So if you just give enter, you can see it gives an error like no such file or directory test.txt. It means if you are opening a file in read mode, it will open only if the current, like the file which you have given here exists. So if it didn't exist there, it will just give an error. So let's open a file which is already present in this directory. I'm just giving file.txt, and I'm just storing this. I'm just creating an instance for that f, and now if I just use, so you can see we didn't get any error. So yeah, you can see here I have the file.txt here. So that's the reason why it didn't give any error. So if you want to, there are something data in the file, right? We have opened the file in read mode. So the main agenda is we have to read the data which is present in that file. So for reading that file, we're gonna use, so if I just use tab here, so you can see all the methods you can use, all the methods which you can use with this file. So we are just using a read, right? So for that, I'm just using this f dot read off. So if I just use print f dot read off, you can see I got the text which is present in that file.txt. So in this way you can just read a particular file. Still there are some methods like read lines of method, right? If I just use read lines of method, so now you can see if I just use f dot read lines of, if I'm trying to read this file.txt again, I just got an empty list, right? So what's the reason for that? So the reason is we have just opened the file, right? So the file is in open, and we have just printed everything in the file. Since we have read the file and we have printed that, now the cursor will present at the end of that file. So since it is at the end of the file, there will be no text, right? There will be no text present. So that's the reason why it is not returning anything. So for that, if you want to avoid that, the best practice is closing the file. So whenever you just open the file, try to close that file. So for that, you can just use f dot close off. Now if I just try to print it, now you can see, now again we got the values which is present in that file.txt. So when you are opening a file, just remember that it's a best practice to close the file. So even there are some other disadvantages of not closing a file. Generally, if you just open a file, it will just assign some RAM in the memory in the computer, right? So for the file which you are reading, it will just create a RAM for that. So it may slow down your program, and also there will be some limitations for opening a file. Like you can able to open only this many kind of files. There will be some limitations in software also. So that's the reason why you have to close a file when you open it. So even there is another method where you can close the file. So in that, you don't need to mention this f dot close off method, so you can directly close the file. I will discuss that at the end of this video. So that's how you can read a file And even you can just give, like if I just give f dot read lines of, so if you see, if I give f dot read lines of 6, I got only Python. It means it tries to give only 6 characters in that text file. So that's the use of this read lines of 6. So even there are some other methods in this reading. You can go through that also. So next let's discuss about writing a file, right? Writing something to a file. So for writing the file, you can just use, I'm just using F1 here, and I'm just using open of, I'm just opening a new file, like I'm just using the file which is not present, and I'm just opening in write mode, right? So I'm just closing the file, and if I just give enter, so now you can see, so even though this file 1 is not exist, we didn't got any error, right? So what might be the reason? So the reason is, if you try to open that file in write mode, if the file which you have given is present, it will just open in write mode. So if you didn't have that file, it will create the file. So you can see, if you see here, you can see here file1.txt. So since that file is not present, it just created a file. So that's an that you have to remember in write mode. So if I want to write something to this, I can just give f1 dot, you can see we have write lines of methods to write something. So run something to the file. Again, I'm just using f1 dot write off. So I'm just giving, like, I'm just giving programming, etc. Like I'm just giving that. So if I just give enter, so if I just try to open that file, you can see we got programming in this file1.txt. So that's how you can write something to a file. And if I just try to use this f1 dot write of, right, if I, instead of this programming, if I just use Python, right, again if I just try to refresh it, you can see it didn't see, in previous case we have programming, right? Now instead of that we got Python, right? Instead of that we got Python. So what this write, what this write will do means, if if something is present already in that, it will just try to overwrite that. So in previous case we have programming, right? So it is trying to overwrite that. So other thing which I have to mention is, we have opened the file in write mode, right? So if I just try to read the file, you can see, since we have opened in write mode, if I am trying to read the file, I'm getting the error, unsupported operation, not readable. So if we opened the if we opened in the write mode, only we can write that. If we opened in read mode, only we can read that, right? So in order to overcome this, so there are two other modes, that is R plus and W plus. So let's discuss both of those now. So I'm just opening the same file1. So I'm just using the same thing here. So I'm just opening the file.txt. Now I'm just using R plus. Now if I just try to read that, you can see we didn't got any error. Now if I just try to write something, f dot write of, let's say, let's write, so I'm just writing f dot write of program, such that I'm just writing something. So you can see f dot write of program, if I just give enter, it returns like the number of characters I'm trying to write. This is 7, right? So it's just trying to return that as an output. And if I just try to check the file.txt, and if I just try to check here, you can see, by using this, if I'm trying to write something using this R plus, by using this R plus mode, if I'm just trying to write something, it won't overwrite, right? Generally it won't overwrite the entire file. Previously we have Python, right? So instead of Python, it just write a program here. So that you have to remember. So similarly, if I just use, in the same case, if I just use W plus mode, write plus mode, it means we can just write both, we can just do both read and write operation. So it works similar to that of write mode, but the only thing is it can even read the file. So that's the use of this W plus mode. So similarly, if the same thing, if I just try to run here, if I just try to restart, you can see it just overwritten the entire file. So that's the difference you have to remember between R plus and W plus modes. And even there is another important mode, that is append, right? So for appending, I'm just using the same thing. So for appending, I'm just using mode as A here. And so we have program, right? So let's write something here, some other thing. So I'm just using Python here. Now if I just try to rerun this, you can see it just appended to the text which is already present. It didn't overwrite anything. That's the use of this append mode. So even there is another method like A plus mode. So using this A plus mode, we can just do both read and write operations. So write operation in A plus, nothing but appending something. So that you have to remember. So if I just try to just using C++, and you can see if I just rerun this, you can see it just appended this C++ to the existing file. And even if I said, right, even you can just read the file. So I'm just using f.read off. So if you check, now you can see we got an empty string, like we didn't get anything, right, output. So what's the reason means, so if you just opening any file using this append mode, it understands that we are trying to append something, so the file location will be at the end. So if I'm trying to print, if I'm just trying to read something, so that's the it didn't have anything here, right? So that's the reason why it is returning nothing. So for that we can use another method for that. So I'm just using f dot seek of method, and I'm just using 0 here. So this is another important method. It will be useful for relocating the pointer. So if I just use 0, it means it just change the pointer at the end to the beginning. So if I try to run this, you can see now we can able to read that. So that you have to understand, when you are trying to use this append mode, the pointer will be at the end of the file. So if you want to go to beginning of the file and if you want to read, you can just use this f.seekoff and you can just try to read that. So that's all about this reading and writing a file. And I have said you, right, I will discuss another way of closing a file, right? So let's discuss that. So the method that we're gonna use for closing a file is using this with statement. I'm just using this with. Now I'm just with open off. So let's open this same file. So instead of that, let's copy this. So I'm just reading as f. So in previous case we have opened, we have just created an instance for that file, right? For the file file.txt, we have created an instance f, right? So in similar way, I'm just opening as f and I'm just mentioning colon, store something like that in data here, and I'm just using f.read off. Now if I just try to this data, you can see we got that. Now let's check whether the file which I have opened here is closed or not. So now to check that, you can just use f dot. So you can see we got the output as true. So using this with method, we can just directly close the function. We don't need to worry about closing a file every time when we open. So we can use this with statement. So that's all for this video. I hope you understood everything about this, like opening a file, reading a file, writing a file, and appending some data to the file, and different types of modes in this file handling, and also how to close, how to use this with statement. So I hope you got an idea of all those things. So if you understood the video, like the video and Feel free to share your feedback in the comment section. Thanks for watching.